We are on air. That's better, isn't it? There we go. So, we're back. I have recovered from my tonsillitis and have returned to DmC Devil May Cry. And tonight, Friday night, I'm going to play some Vergil's Downfall because we need to see the DLC of this game. The first game I think starts pretty well. It kind of falls a little bit as you go on. It hits its stride around Bob Barbas, then slightly descends and then falls apart at the end. This DLC makes the end of the original look amazing, because this is some fucking shit. Now, if I remember correctly, I needed the volume down around here for it to work. Put the subtitles on this time. Let's only show Vergil's tutorials because I know most of it. Let's see. Standard, classic. Oh, that's all we got. Let's go with standard for now. On Devil Hunter. Yes, I would. Only Vergil. I've just put those in. Again. Hey. It's weird. It treats the DLC like it's a different game. It looks like a different game too. The cutscenes are completely different art style, as you can see. Probably because it had to be cheap to make. Angel Mom. And so Vergil, having been defeated by Dante, retreated and found his way here, where he died and fell into hell. I assume hell. It's not 100% clear. Apologies if the mic is making noises. I'm using a different microphone to last time, because last time we had some serious audio issues, so I've played around with it and hopefully this will fix it completely. Mother? I can't get away from that. Every DmC is about mother. The Daffy Duck effect. Okay, so I have those 3 combos. Well, 2 combos, should I say. I also have one on there. And no Angel or Demon just yet. I'm starting off weak. But I have Angel Dodge, interestingly. I also have Summon Swords in all 3 varieties, which is interesting, I guess. Now, of course, this has its own collectibles, so everybody who hated me running around looking at areas like this, trying to find them, buckle up, because this is gonna get rough for you guys. I'm not gonna go overboard with it. Now, this is easily, because I like to take DLC sections in games like this as like separate games, because they basically develop completely independently. It's a completely different character in a different setting, so it may as well be in a standalone game. Kind of like Far Cry Blood Dragon was to Far Cry 3. Oh, thankfully I can extend my combo beyond simply my regular one by, like so. Also, Vergil does not use rolls the way that Dante does. He uses trick, which I prefer massively. It's not always as clear, and it doesn't seem as responsive, but I prefer tricks to dodges. See, we got summon swords. They're not great, but, you know, they hit things. I can trick up, and I can trick down. And if you know what you're doing with that, which I super do not, you can actually... He's fairly manoeuvrable. In fact, he's probably a lot more manoeuvrable in the air than Dante is. Which I appreciate, because it is a kind of a gameplay change. The difference being that Vergil on the ground feels a lot more limited than Dante does. What I was going to say about this feeling like a different game, and it clearly like almost markets itself as a different game. It is one of the most disappointing standalone things I've ever seen, in so many ways. We'll get onto them as we come to them, but just in terms of character development, thematically, artistically, gameplay-wise, it has all the kind of first step of what could be a good game, and then just stops there. Kind of like the main game, but more so. Yeah, I know where Lost Soul is. Good. Kind of like the main game, but so much more in every way. Yeah. First of all, Vergil doesn't feel great to play with, especially compared to other Vergils in other versions of Devil May Cry. I'm particularly thinking DmC 4. In DmC 3, Vergil was good, but somewhat limited in terms of his movement and attack abilities. I mean, at the time it didn't feel that bad. Going back to DmC 3 now, he feels very limited. Because in DmC 4 they just threw attacks at you. Like, you start the game as Vergil in his playable section. I tried to double jump there, I can't yet. That's why I nearly fell. Yeah, you start the game as Vergil. You already have 3 weapons, all of which are available to you, all of which for the full moveset, bigger than the one moveset you have in this game. To the point where he's intimidating to play as Vergil in DmC 4. It's because that one is kind of conversely to this. It's built with the assumption that you've already played DmC 3 and you already know Vergil's, at least some of Vergil's core moveset. Where this, you've got like a handful of attacks with the one sword, the angel and demon weapon. Not to ruin it for you, because we've not quite got there yet, but Vergil's angel and demon weapon is just swinging this sword slightly more slowly or slightly more quickly. Like, that's about it. Does the same effects in terms of breaking stuff or breaking shields or whatever, but just not even a different weapon, not even a different sword, it's just the same sword but with demon or angel on it, which is itself a massive disappointment. Ah, he killed the birds, but he didn't, because look, I actually kind of appreciate this enemy. I believe it's the one that I think I've almost certainly told the story about why are you attacking in that direction, Vergil? Why? For some reason the game was locked onto something off the side of the screen. Yeah, you get stuck in Vergil's animations for so much longer than Dante as well. It's crazy how much slower and less agile he feels than Dante does. It's also not 100%. See, like... Why? Okay, no. We... Can I just not lock on? Is that the problem? Am I just not allowed to lock on? Oh yes, he has that mode where he just becomes completely invulnerable to half your base attacks. You can't like... Because you may have noticed the summon swords, I can press hold L2 or R2, the same as with Dante's thing, to pull myself to him or pull him to me. When he goes into that weird little not double trigger mode, you can't do that to him. Which, as you probably noticed during that, makes that fight just awful to watch and to play. Because I just have to sort of... Especially, I don't know what that was, that's another thing I need to find out. When I was attacking, I was locked onto him, ran up towards him, aimed towards him, pressed attack, and Vergil turned around and attacked in the other direction. For no clear reason. Should probably find out what that is. Enemy step, slasher combo, judgment cut. See, he's only got one airborne combo. What the fuck is that about? Summon swords, higher levels? I mean, is that... just increases how many swords I can fire in that speed. I mean, do I want Judgment Cut? Yeah, I'll go Judgment Cut. More moves, we're going to stick with more moves rather than better versions of existing moves. Because that's how we do. Health cross is 500, got it. And let's keep her going. Nothing in here. And let's go. Yeah, I was just moaning about how disappointing bits of this game is. The first fight, I thought, okay, let's go, and I was surprised and disappointed by how bad that one fight felt. And not in comparison to other Vergils. That one felt disappointing compared to the Dante I was playing a week ago. Like that. I noticed that my dodge actually... the upside to... I mean, this is cool. Like, I can trick up and trick down, that's full. But when I dodge, you notice I'm there for a couple of frames, maybe 2 or 3 frames, where Vergil just stands in place. And if I need to dodge at the last minute, at the very least, Dante starts moving when I press L1, instead of just standing there for a sec and then appearing somewhere else. Is this just pointless then? It looks to be pointless. Disappointing. And yeah, my attack combos feel so sluggish, which is weird because you'd think Dante with the big heavy rebellion as opposed to the sleek and agile Yamato, he should feel really quick and agile compared to Dante. Admittedly, just played, I'm on like, hey, health cross, that's what we need. Admittedly, first fight of the first stage when I'm at the weakest I can possibly be as Vergil, so I'm probably not a fair judge just yet. But I know the game. Like, I can do what I want. Okay. Yeah, feeling weaker after Dante's attacks is another downside. Maybe I should have played... No, I shouldn't have played this first. That would be stupid. That would be a ridiculous way to play the game. Also, that attack combo versus that. I either have a 7-hit attack or a 3-hit. You're supposed to vary your attacks up to keep you start. Why would I ever use the base combo when that second one is just better in every way? No, I can't extend it any longer at all. it's just that. Or 7 or 3. Like, why? It doesn't even do more damage, it's just almost identical. Is there a thing behind there? It is, but it's a nothing. Is it? No, it's not. Okay. Well, fuck me. Yeah, first fight, not being too judgmental just yet. But he feels... Fuck off. Fuck off. Feels slower, heavier, weaker, less agile, generally less enjoyable than Dante. I can't even have a... like... It takes me like 7 or 8 hits with my airborne combo to kill a collectible. A collectible item. Takes 3 combos. Again, weakest we can be. Judge again when we're strong. This is the one thing I do appreciate with this shit, though. Oh, what, you don't like these enemies? Guess what, nobody does. So how about just don't fight them at all, for any reason? But his combos look boring as well. That's another thing that's annoying me a little bit. Forgot I didn't get Judgment Cut, did I? And yeah, I realise when I'm saying that his combos look boring by comparison, that an awful lot of his moves are kind of copied very directly from original Vergil. But they're copied badly. It doesn't look or feel like Vergil does. I can't be looking for collectibles when cutscene is happening. It's not playtime, it's story time, guys. Come on. You know what, I won't go too... Where do I even go? Okay. I'm just guessing this is a teleport, yeah. So this one is kind of more of a scene setter than anything else. So I'm not going to judge it too... It's just an introduction to this is what Vergil is and has right now. My inability to swing wide as well is kind of annoying me. See, I can't dodge out my own combos because Vergil gets stuck when he hits. They're awful. They're just awful. I did buy Judgment Cut. I'm an idiot. can't see what's happening here, don't worry, I can't either. It's just kind of a thing that's kind of visible, kind of not, that's kind of 40% higher than me. So some of our attacks are on the same level and most aren't quite. This isn't even close to what happened though, is it? I mean, I get that that's how Vergil must be feeling. But I expect more even from a bad villain than just everything is someone else's fault and was mean to me. I especially expect more from Vergil. Alright, what are we going to get? We're going to get a health cross, because of course we are. You'll notice there's a lot less upgrades because this is a very, very short DLC. Enemy step. Why would I ever? Yamato. Judgment cut charge. What's the difference? Oh, it gives a little slash thing, so it does more. Okay. Do I just want stronger attack? Probably. I can't get any new moves, so let's use the basic combo to be stronger. The interesting thing, I do, and not sarcastically, genuinely interesting thing, and this is the third step, it does actually add a new move, which is embed on almost all the attacks. Which is where when you hit the enemy with your sword, a summoned sword gets embedded into them, and you can then move them around and do stuff with it, which is actually interesting. I'm not very good at using it, it must be said, but your ability to maneuver yourself and the enemies is a lot greater with Vergil than it was with Dante, where Dante just feels like you have full control over him, less so than original Dante, but still quite a bit of control in what you can do. In Vergil, it feels like most of your control, you're controlling the enemies, and then actual Vergil has very little going on. Which I suppose is fine, it's a different playstyle. It's closer to V than from 5 than it is anything else I can think of in DmC. Except that weird moves, I can't forget what the weapon's called in DmC 4, where you basically get Dante using summon swords as a weapon, as a style. It's weird. I forget what it's called though. I suppose it's a different style, but I want Vergil to feel powerful, and he never does at any point. Because it feels like he's relying on putting the enemies close to his weak attacks. And even if it may be as effective in some situations, the ability to move a stronger enemy into your weak attack isn't as good as just a strong attack. Which is all of what Dante has. You mean you've seen in the Triple S compilations how easy it is for Dante to move enemies around? And so you do get more movement and stuff once you've got those abilities. See, I think I did pretty well there to get the triple F. I'm practicing the flitting around using the L2 and R2 pulls. in terms of, it just showed you he's got a demon sword, angel sword, sorry, which is that. That's my new angel super weapon. You see the slight blue glow on my katana holster. When I hold LT and triangle, I do that. When I hold LT and press circle, I do that. I can jump, and when I'm in the air, I can throw thing, or I can do spin thing. That's Angel moveset, and in its complete entirety. Disappointing in my mind. I can't stand that, can I? Of course not. I was just supposed to know that I can't stand that. What is the point of... I'm going to see if I can spot many of these that were in the base game, because I think most of the stuff that's just around here, some of it on the platforms you're on is original. In fact, most of what you actually stood on is original. The background and stuff I think is all recycled assets from the base game. Which is, again, kind of disappointing. It's... And by the way, when I'm saying all this, BBC News, hope you're listening, I'm not blaming developers being lazy or incompetent, because they definitely made some bad decisions in the process of this, but it's very clear that this is a budget DLC, shall we say. They clearly had very little time, very little money, and probably a skeleton team to build this by comparison with the base game. To the point where this actually is way smaller. I suppose it's DLC, so it's going to be, but it feels way smaller. The character feels a lot kind of more cheaply. What spawns? Okay. This is the one problem with Vergil. This is a fairly common occurrence. Oh, you were happy on the platform? No. Enemies off the platform. Guess where you're going? His ability to just make himself invulnerable to half my attacks is really irritating. Any enemy that limits your moveset is irritating by default. I think they're just worse. Give the enemies more attacks. Don't just stop me from using my attack. That's lazy. Yes, that one is lazy. But yeah, this is way smaller than the original game. Vergil clearly got a lot less work on his attack patterns, the timings on his moves, the animation on it. You can see, like I said, how boring it looks. You remember Dante's moveset, right? With his, like, the three combos you get for Dante. Think of what they are in your mind. Go back to watch the video if you like. And then look at this. That's as intricate as Vergil ever gets. Oh, look. Like, it's so much less interesting by comparison. We have what? T and triangle. We have Rising Star, which I think is crap. And all my attacks are just more damage now. Okay. You know what? I actually quite... You know, more moves. More moves. That's what I said I'd do, so that's what I'm going to do. More moves. Oh, two paths. Whichever way should I go? Which way should I go? This one seems more optional. gonna come back anyway. So, by the way, when I said obviously I've beaten these games, I've played this before. I haven't actually finished this DLC myself. I've seen the end in Let's Plays. But me, myself, I've never actually gotten to the end. I've never completed it, so... hopefully it won't be as bad as the bits I have played. Hopefully the things I've seen aren't as bad as I remember. But there may be some surprises along the way. We can only hope, can't we? It's the same thing I could do as Dante, but a little bit different. How do I get up there then? Oh, I use the same trick I always use to get up there. Vergil? Are you serious? Thank you for the most useless thing in the world. Yeah, I could see it. I should have known. Okay. I didn't. Two combos for a collectible. Why didn't I use the second combo? Because there isn't a second combo. That's all I've got in the air. Yeah, this feels really, not necessarily badly, but cheaply made compared to the base game. He feels so bad by comparison. I think I'm doing okay with that one I love. And they got that the right way around as well. That should be down. That was my angel dodge before, so that's what I'm going to when I'm in danger, and it is just throw me up away from everything that's going to hit me. I do appreciate that one. So here's another lost soul. I'm going to upgrade that. That's not a thing. I know that's not a thing. It looks like a thing, but I know it's not a thing. What should I have done, game? Exactly what I did do, apparently. Unless I'm not supposed to go this way. Is that what the game's trying to indicate to me? Yeah, this was the other path, wasn't it? Well, I got a collectible before, so I suppose it was worth it. And let's move on. No? Okay. To be honest, I find that aspect of Vergil's past in the original games to be really disappointing. That Vergil's whole thing, it turned out, in 5, was just that, off a large part, he thought his mother had just abandoned him and saved Dante. And then it turned out she hadn't. She had, of course, tried to save them both and been unable to do so. Okay. Really? I'm locked completely in place when I'm attacking him like that. No, why? Judgment Cut's useless. Noted. I know the range on Judgment Cut as well. It's not amazing. It's kind of annoyingly precise. I also can't move whilst I'm charging up Judgment Cut, so let's see. That makes it kind of useless because it makes me completely vulnerable. I can at least trick out of it. Or if I like, apparently, go into the world's longest loading screen to nothing. Excellent. Is that what it was meant for me to be doing? Because it said to the portal to run up and press L1 to move through it. It was trying to tell me I need to trick through it, it seems. Can't get nothing. As in the base game, we shall be upgrading only ever health. Because why would I ever get anything else other than health? It's all worthless. Just do it perfectly. Don't need to heal yourself, just don't get hurt. Simple. Why would this be here if there wasn't a hidden thing? Because otherwise the area would be so barren that it doesn't bear stating. And that's a good enough reason. Part of the reason why my vitriol for this particular section of the game is so much greater than it is for the original, than for the base game, is because Vergil is easily my favourite character in Devil May Cry, and not by a small margin. He is impossibly cool in every way. Judgment Cut End, when you do it perfectly on DmC 4, is the best attack in anything ever. Trick out of my attack game. Thank you. Do they do anything at all? No. Massive. Look how narrow they are as well. Every hit. I just can't get a combo going at all because of this bullshit. Dodge out of it. Again, just can't do half my attacks because he's invisible for no reason. Can't pull or be pulled to chainsaw guys when they do an attack. Like, you feel weaker than them. For so much of this DLC, because of the way the enemies are set up, you feel weaker than the average enemies you're fighting. You're not, but you feel it. She's right. Why did it? She's right, we are. Literally won. I've seen the end of the game. Oh, it was a demon that we beat. What an awful kind of slaying of his demon animation. Just stabbed it and that's it. And not like a cool stab through the heart, just like a eh. I got S for style points. Are you sure again? Oh, we missed things. B overall is okay, I suppose. Let's go to the shop. What do we got? More of that. Just more of the same moves there. More of the same moves there. We're going to level up Sun and Swords so that they're actually useful. And let's see if that helps at all. And just because. Let's go for a goofy anime boy in cosplay, down Vergil. But yeah, Vergil in my original games is my favourite by far. His moves are the most interesting. They flow the most easily into each other. I think it looks more like a single consistent fighting style than Dante's, which obviously is just switching between whatever weapon he picks up at the time. Vergil always looks like a samurai that he's fighting, either whether it's with his fists or with his swords. He looks composed and cool, sleek. In this, he feels very ungraceful, very heavy, very clunky. I remember as well talking about the enemies thing, about you feeling weaker than them, feeling less agile. When this first came out, or when it was about to come out, oh yeah, it's weird that this like comes up in Vergil's head when like actual Dante never actually said anything about this. Like there was. It's just awful, isn't it? It just looks awful, it sounds awful, it feels awful. That looks cool. I wish that was an optional costume. There he is. I think he looks cool in the original. In this, he doesn't look as bad as I remember, actually. I quite like the cosplay kind of silk coat he's got. It looks kind of good. Yeah, look at when this first came out, when it was coming out, the developers went out of their way to reassure everybody playing it that Vergil would not be fighting any coloured enemies in the DLC. Because in the original, if you remember, they had the red and the blue for the angel and the demon enemies. But in the original, the angel enemies were only vulnerable to angel weapons. They would bounce off everything else. Everything else would bounce off them. And same for the demon, but with demon weapons. So they did reassure them that in this, that wouldn't happen. Which, for one thing, is, like, good job shitting on everything else you'd made up to that point. But also because they made enemies that are just straight up half invulnerable to all of your attacks half of the time. As if that was, like, the happy medium. That's the better, perfect alternative. That there are enemies that just for no reason in the middle of the fight make themselves invulnerable to your pulling and manoeuvring mechanics, which is most of what Vergil has. Oh, I do at least have Demon Sword now. Was expecting Vergil to pull him toward me there, but it didn't. Didn't think he was going to do that there. And on that last one, was expecting Vergil's dodge to do a little bit more than nothing. But hey. I feel like my hands are seizing up when I'm fighting. I think that's how I would describe it. In terms of how limited you are. Weirdly, the closest I can feel... I actually like this cutscene. That's a Dante thing to say. It's the only time any of it feels remotely, like, real. What I was going to say, my closest analysis to how this game feels is when I used to play Gran Turismo, which is a really weird comparison, but stick with me. You used to be able, in those games, to outfit your cars with a bunch of different, what would you call it, like parts in all the different... Did my platform just... Oh no, I didn't want it. Okay, good. I was actually about to jump on that, thankfully I paused to have a thought. Yeah, you used to be able to outfit your cars with... There's a thing over there I need to get to, but how do I get to it? Not yet, I guess. You used to be able to outfit your car. I will get to the end of this sentence eventually. You used to be able to outfit your cars with a bunch of different parts that would do different stuff. And one of the things you could change was the gearbox. Oh, good. My favourite mechanic. What the fuck was that? Can I make that? Maybe. But also kind of not at all. What? Yeah, one of the things you could outfit your car with was a different gearbox. I'm going to try it a little bit more, okay? No, I guess it's a comeback later for thing. Oh well. And different gearboxes had different gear ratios and different numbers of gears. So if you didn't know anything about cars, you could actually mess your car up quite a bit by messing with the parts, which was good. Because when you learned about it, you actually learned things. But if you ever tried to put, as I did, skimp on a gearbox for really fast acceleration and put a really super powerful engine in, which is the first thing everybody did when they got the money to do it, because you think more power equals more speed. What you actually happen is you rush through your gears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get through all your gears immediately. You get to about 50 to 60% of your car's max speed, and then it won't move any further because you run out of gears to move up through. That's how it feels with Vergil. It feels like all of his moves have gear 1, 2. Sometimes 3 when you've got all of them. Volcano. Oh, that's the... That one's a little bit better. That's rubbish. That's awful. I got Stomp. I don't like Stomp. I can't get him anyway. But that's how it feels with Vergil. It feels like you're starting a combo, you're starting to get some attacks going, some rhythm going, and then you run out of moves. You get a combo, dodge out of it, do a judgment cut, pull another enemy in, hit the 3 of them with a spin attack, go for a big finish, and realise you've got nothing else, so okay, I'll go back to combo number 1 again, I suppose. And it feels very repetitive, very limited. Feels like your hands are seizing up, because when you start to feel that rhythm going, there's nothing left for them to do. There's nothing else for them to do. It is that simple. Oh, it's an ambush. Oh, I've got Devil Trigger, apparently. Now, Spiral Swords are actually really good in this game. They're crazy strong by comparison to almost everything else that every character has. I was fairly certain he was dead because I was hitting him with the weapon that would break his shield. Then he just wasn't dead. Killer Bee is awful as well. Killer Bee is just awful. Once again, they are the easiest thing in the world to kill.
Where did he go?
Even that little, like, putting the sword thing animation looks terrible. It doesn't look fluid at all. It looks like it's running at a lower frame rate than everything else. It might well actually be running at a lower frame rate than everything else. Lucky I spotted that. I don't remember if I ever got that before. I don't remember this room, to be perfectly honest. Oh well, we got it this time. It's just really disappointing to have Vergil have no hint of self-reflection at all. And yeah, you may not expect that of a villain, but you expect it of anybody who is halfway intelligent. It's kind of the problem that every character in this series is dumb as shit. Sorry, this game, not this series. A lot of the people in this series are really smart. But in this game, every character is dumb as shit. Vergil, Dante obviously most of all, but Vergil could have solved so many of his problems by just talking to them in the first place. Because there is no real contradiction between what they both wanted to do at the end of the game. In terms of Vergil ruling or Dante being a protector, what is the real meaningful difference? Honestly, what was Vergil's concrete plan? Did he imagine was the daily life of Vergil from that point? Because I bet if they talked about it, they'd find there wasn't a lot of difference between what they wanted. 2000 complete the next health cross part. Why is there no ground? Why are they all in the air? This is the best way to fight them. Why is that the best way to fight them? Another one of the really disappointing things about Vergil's moveset in particular is the inability to flick into Judgment Cut from out of your other attacks. It really feels like that should be a thing. Like, what am I supposed to do about that guy's shield other than just attack it over and over with the weakest hits in the world? Okay, I found the optimum strategy for Devil May Cry. That's genuinely the best, most reliable way to actually fight the enemies. All of them has some kind of shield that makes them not vulnerable to my normal attacks half the time. All of them are flying all of the time in an area that's like this. So if you jump to the wrong one by accident, the camera will spin around and you'll just fall and take damage. The one enemy who actually does try to fight you one-on-one can make himself invulnerable to any of your pulling or pushing attacks. And also unstaggerable in most of his forms. Yeah, that's a thing, right? It's like every enemy is meant to be annoying, not fun. Why can't you just make them all vulnerable to all of my attacks, but to various degrees, and then just give them loads more attacks? And I don't mean as in put loads of work in, make them like incredible boss enemies each that would take a lot of time and money and probably unbalance a lot of stuff. I mean, instead of making that animation for him where he glows white and is invulnerable to my stuff, just make him something else. Really? Oh good, I love when I'm halfway through a combo and my enemy goes into his invulnerable attack, so I have to run away for fear of being hit stunned. It's just awful. Look how bad that is. Oh, he put his shield up so he's invulnerable to all but one of my attacks. Oh no, nearly got a combo, but fun had to stop so I could avoid that attack. Killer Bee doesn't even break the shield. Go off the cliff. Fuck off. It's so bad, man. I'm weaker than them. I'm legitimately 100% weaker than them. I can't do anything to make them not be able to hit stun me. I can jump out of the way of their attacks. But why are they the ones tanking my hits and me running away to reposition? When I'm the Nephilim son of Sparta. And they're just a fucking nothing. Okay, we're into the massive reuse of assetscape here. Also, we're chasing down Dante, right? We are chasing down the hero of the main game, who we have been looking to follow for some time. Is this a thing? It is a thing. Where does it go? Let's find out. Nowhere. It's nothing. That can't be right though. That's... Yeah, that's where I'm supposed to go. I'm stood on a platform much like the one there. No, it's death. It's just death. Well, isn't that nice? Yeah, I'm chasing down the hero of the main game. Trying to exercise my demons by defeating my arch rival in combat. Yeah, let's finish it. Let's do this, Dante. Let's see what you've got. Hit me with everything you have. Oh, look at that, I won. How... They... The entire... They set it up. There's no way they didn't plan to put it in originally. I got triple S for style points. Am I better at this game than I thought I was? That one is the one I missed. Fuck. I'd have probably got an A on that. Not that the scores matter in the slightest, but... Wait, what's demon mode got now? Stomp, that's it, right? Drive is awful as well. Killer Bee is awful. I don't know what Atomic is. Let's go for it because it's slightly different. Okay, it's the same, but if I release it at the exact right moment, it'll launch all enemies, not just weak enemies. I can also get Blistering Swords or Storm Swords. I actually want that more than I want Volcano Charge. It uses your Devil Trigger, but which is good because Devil Trigger is completely useless otherwise. Also, I wish I could sell stuff on there. Solar Flare, Atomic and Perfect Slice have invulnerability frames. That's good to know. I might try and get Perfect Slice then just to make Judgment Cut not useless. Oh, the boss is me after all. It's one of the very few, even slightly disappointing things about Devil May Cry 3, that the final boss when you play as Vergil is Shadow Vergil, rather than Dante. Because it's the one thing that game doesn't have. I've been thinking about this, about what's the best original Devil May Cry game. 5 is the obvious one, because it's just out and it kind of... There's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of a perfect game in that way. There's nothing you can really complain about. Mom, being eaten by crows. Oh, they left, it's fine. That hair looked fucking awful. Look at it. That's the most horror... Ugh. It hurts to look at that. They did not have the time that they needed for this game. At all. Because, again, I'm not blaming incompetence. There are design issues with the combat and things. But even if they're not as used to this genre at this point, Team Ninja games generally look fine. Like, Ava's hair in there was just basically just the same as Heavenly Sword Girl's hair. That was a great slow motion cut, wasn't it, guys? Saw everything and everything. At least these guys are almost a joke now. Only an A for that one. Right. Yeah, her hair is just Heavenly Sword Girl hair. It's not like they can't do basic... Not basic, because hair's really complicated, but... You know, like... Things that industry veterans and relative newcomers should be able to do. And the only real reason they'd get that wrong is no funding or no time. Or both. Probably both. Something probably happened, I was looking for collectibles.
Don't worry, Mother. Your nightmares will soon be over.
Don't worry, Mother. They tried to make him sound as creepy as they could. And they did. To be fair to them. What is... Oh, it's a star. So what? Oh, over there is optional. I see. But where does it go? Oh, it's not. It's the path I... Okay. It's the path I should have taken. That's cool. I'm trying not to be negative, so I'm thinking really hard of positives about it. But it's really hard to think of positives about it. You know what? I'm going to pop to the toilet whilst I have a think. You wait here for me. Why don't you watch Van Helsing?
Do you know what this is?
No. Oh, is it?
Do you recognise it?
Not really.
Let me in.
Ah, right.
She's the vampire.
Hmm.
He's doing bullying, she wants to fucking annihilate all the bullies.
Aye. I'm back. I didn't think of anything, but we're gonna find something. Hey, look, I found something. Great. Hitbox. It's probably quicker anyway. Why do I have to, like, trick through it? It's weird. I'm going to start using the devil trigger thing more because it's one... Oh, that's the thing I like. As much as this looks like an amazing thing you could do something with, it's nothing. Looks like you should be able to propel yourself somewhere or do something, huh? But no. It's just a nothing. One thing I like, the devil trigger. Vergil's devil trigger is a lot better than Dante's. And generally is actually one of my favourite devil trigger things. But again, a huge disappointment because they should have used it properly. Vergil's devil trigger lasts so little time. Obviously the one he gets is the one he has in the boss fight in the base game, Doppelganger. Nope, that's not a thing. But you also have... There's a star over there, but I don't particularly care for it. You also have this kind of stuff, which is actually really useful. Particularly against stronger enemies. Feels like it's on the cusp of making you so agile and so able, and just doesn't deliver at all. Oh. Yeah, the devil trigger in this is way better. You get the summon sword abilities that are really useful, particularly the spiral swords and the one you just saw me. I think it's called blistering swords. And you get Doppelganger, which in itself is amazingly complex for what it is, given that if I maxed out my devil trigger gauge, oh, it just adds more swords, which is always better. I don't like that one very much. You may ask why they sit like that. There's no reason. I was going to get perfect slice, wasn't I? If you get the timing perfectly, it does a slightly different animation. And also gives you frames of invincibility, which is what we're going for. I think when I finish this mission, I'm going to go back, start from the beginning again, and try and get the stuff I missed. Game? Well, okay then. Health cross. Yeah, if I max out my devil trigger, I get maybe 6 to 8 seconds of devil trigger ability at a time. And a really complex, interesting fighting style, which is essentially what it was in DmC 3. Doppelganger is a style that lasts 8 seconds at a time, and then you have to charge up for a fight or two to use it again, is pointless. To the point where no matter how cool it is, or how interesting it is, or how much fun it is, it's not worth even upgrading enough to get it. Because you can't use it. You can't actually use it. It's, again, because it's probably the best thing about this DLC, because they have some cool ideas about Vergil to do with Doppelganger. That if they just incorporated it all into a kind of constantly devil-triggered Vergil as the character, and where you get all the extra abilities like the spiral swords and the thingy swords. That's one thing I do appreciate, that I have to... Another controller thing, that I have to take my hands off the controller to be able to do it, right? I can pull them into me whilst charging up various attacks. Let's see how good this is against him. Pretty good. I hit triple S as Vergil. Your devil trigger comes back quickly enough that you can use it regularly in combat, but the inability to just have those moves when you need them makes it not worth it. It's only worth it when you're doing the spiral swords and the blistering swords, because they're the only moves that take up little enough that you can use them sparingly, the way that you always do to get style, because you're switching moves all the time, and still feel like you can use them. Where Doppelganger is the traditional use of the devil trigger, where you save it up for ages until you hit something you need it on, and then you use it. But in the old Devil May Cry's, that was perfect for it to work like that, because all it was a massive damage buff and a heal. So all it does is, when you're struggling on a boss or a strong enemy, pop your devil trigger, get your big boost of get your health back, get your extra damage in, and it's kind of a clutch thing. Where this is a different fighting style that you pop in clutch moments. A fighting style that is not nearly strong enough to be a clutch move, or if it is, requires way too much work and skill to be a clutch move. So it's cool but worthless. The geometry and stuff is annoying. It's by far the most threatening enemy. It has the most variety on its attacks as well. Well, I can't use that, can I? Again, Western game traversal, it's not this game's fault, it's just how we do it in America and whatnot. But does this have to exist? Also, you know what makes Judgment Cut less useful? When the attack that Judgment Cut uses to knock them in range actually knocks them too far, so they're out of range. That, for some reason, was just an awful dodge. It took me way less far than it should have done. The invincibility moves ruin it. They ruin it so much, it's not even funny. Good, it's just above where I'm supposed to be. So I can get a hit at a time. That makes this more fun. Yeah. That's not challenge, is it? That's not gameplay. Oh, let's go. I better have enough for a health cross soon. Is that a way? It is a way, I think. Yes. Oh no. No, it's not. It's another nothing. It's... I can't... How can you not tell where the floor is? How? Like, how can that be an issue? Can I stand? Can I stand? Why is that a problem to overcome in this game? Is that a thing below me? Kinda. It doesn't look like it's supposed to be a thing. No, not a thing. Maybe it's really obvious to everyone else. Maybe I'm the only one being messed up by this. But for a game this linear, it's extremely confusing and unclear where I'm supposed to be going and where I'm even able to go. I suppose where I'm supposed to go isn't that confusing, that's not true, but... Aim up. Vergil. The thing up. Can I just not? I just can't hit it because I can't aim. I can't aim at it. Is that a platform? That looks like a platform. Is this the platform I was on earlier? I think it is. Was I supposed to go there some other... That's upside down. What are you loading? You know what? I thought I saw something. It wasn't. No. No, it's nothing. Never mind then. I'm aware this commentary isn't the most riveting ATM, but that's where I was a second ago that it needed to load in. I'm really struggling for things of interest to say or to point out. There's not a lot going on. The background is just... Shall I get more Devil Trigger Gauge? I can buy and use all of those. No, I'll save up for health. Can't get any more abilities yet. Is this a thing? I get that if it's going to be exploration there needs to be some duds, but they shouldn't all be duds. Should they? Really? It seems like about an hour since I fought an enemy. I know I'm running around, it's my fault, but still. This is a fight arena, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed, just then my judgment cut thing actually knocked her away from my judgment cut. Oh no, I planned to use Judgment Cut on him, but he turned invisible, and therefore invulnerable. My mistake, guys, clearly. See, the camera is actually following the enemy I'm not trying to attack. Nope. Nothing but this, sir. Not being able to pull him or flip to him is the worst thing in the world. It's the worst thing in the game, it's the worst thing in any of this. Can I go back? No. Surely there's a thing in here, right? I get why people don't like it. But I'm very much down for, like, anime cosplay style costumes. I wish there was a full game designed with characters who are literally people cosplaying other characters from other series. I feel like a Mega Dimension Neptunia, but an action game version. Something like that. Instead of game industry, it's like Animeverse or something. Oh good, worst enemy in the game. Yes, I have said that a lot. You know why? Because it's always true. Why is it the worst enemy in the game? Because A, it is forcibly grounded. I cannot hit it up into the air no matter what I do, which makes half my moveset useless. It is area denial for a character who is already feels like he's wearing concrete shoes, which is annoying as fuck. It has very little build up on any of its animations, and they all look identical. So you can't really read what it's doing. It has way more health than it should, for what it is. It's the weird, like, block things that it was throwing out have really inconsistent hitboxes, and sometimes are just are visible but don't actually have a hitbox, and sometimes have a hitbox but are not visible, which I don't think is by design. I hate it. Also because it is the big grand final boss of this DLC. Now in this scene, I don't know if any of you are paying attention, instead of my rant about that boss. Mini-boss. You didn't give him power at all, he inherited it. Also not entirely accurate. And one of the kind of interesting things about this is the rest of this DLC is kind of in Vergil's head, the people he's talking to. This particular encounter, that is literally his mother, Ava. That's where she is now. Don't know how aware Vergil was of that, or of any of the rest. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. Sword illusion, what else do I want? Do I want stronger spiral swords? It's awful, but I suppose level 2 of that is the next best thing. It's a more devastating version. It looks awful, it feels awful. They're all just more damage on existing attacks. Guess we'll upgrade crosscut. Okay. Having reached that, let's have a look at going back to the missions I've already done. To see what I missed. And I missed nothing. Pretty good. 2 things, 1 thing, 2 things. Okay. Not much to go back for. But let's do it. Maybe these will feel more fun now that I have more abilities. The later ones didn't, but you never know. Yeah, we're gonna skip that. Well, it's that thing that's chasing Cat, remember? I think I should change back to the other costume too. It's a bit more fun. I'll give it that. So what were we looking for? We're looking for a full health cross and a lost soul. Not down there, don't think. Don't care. Gonna move this thing. I feel like it's up there. That looks like a platform I could go to. There's no, like, sticking thing. I don't think. Maybe not. Okay, never mind. We'll just press on, I suppose. Really looks like a way I should be going, though. If I fail at the end, then we'll explore that again, but not just yet. Definitely nothing over that way, or this way. Doesn't seem to be anything happening in that direction. So, I don't know why that happened, but okay. Yeah, no idea why that happened. Alright. I got it pretty well. Combat's it's more difficult than the original, than the base game, but it's not that difficult. You just have to remember to never ever go in the air for any reason when you're on those platforms. So last time I went left, right? Oh, I'm so close. I think I found everything over there last time. just in case, let's have a look around. Nothing on the back of there, yeah. I don't see anything else over there, so I think we are clear. Aha! Just the health cross to go. Which is annoying because that's by far the most valuable thing out of all of this. I'm sure we'll find it eventually. I feel like that will have been the thing that was weird at the beginning as well. Oh, this is where I tried to go back to when I came here the first time. Assuming I'd missed something by going that way. Yeah, you can see the path over there. I can't see anywhere over there where the cross would be. Here there was a dude, a lost soul. There was a thing over there too, I think. It's kind of fun to play when you get more used to it. The one thing I wish I could change is I wish L2 and square was the one that pulled them toward me, instead of me toward them. I wonder if I can do charge judgment cut, fire one of them and then do it when I arrive. Might be worth trying that. Still awkward because I have to press triangle and square at the same time, which I'm using currently my thumb to do one or the other of. That said, I am going to try it. Oh no, I can't try it on these because for some reason Spiral Sword just didn't hit him. I can only assume because of his meaningless invulnerability. Why does this platform become so tiny? Is there a star? A cross anywhere? I see nothing. There's nothing down below. Can't be here then, can it? Because there's nowhere around it could possibly be. There's no platform. Good to know these swords are just gonna stick with me for the time being. 3.5k for the last health. Perfect slice, that's what we wanted. Nope, not the way I'm supposed to get across there. this is. We went over there and got that thing before, so we don't need to now. Went over there and got that nothing. Okay, let's try it, shall we? I cannot. Okay. No idea where that health cross is. No idea. The only place I can think that it might be was that platform I was looking at the beginning. But even there, I really don't think it is. I started to use a flare a little bit more there. So let's go with flare, level 2. Let's look back at the missions again. What's that? Health cross, there's lost soul, there's another fragment. Oh, there's the boss fight. Own shadow. How many fragments have I got? 3. I don't want to replay that again, let's just do the boss fight. And we're going back to standard version. I need 3.5k from the rest of the game in order to get my last purchasable health cross. Vergil confronts his true enemy, himself. He said the line, guys. But it's worse. Because it doesn't mean anything, really. Where is this in physical space? Also, is Hollow Vergil the darkness in Vergil or the light in Vergil? Because it's not clear. Just so you know, I know very little of his moveset, even though he's using almost identical one to the one he used in the base game. Because it's still just Vergil. It's still just a redo of the boss fight. Oh right, I'm just... yeah, wait for him to do his... Don't remember how you dodge it though. I can't attack him here either, by the way. I probably wasted my Devil Trigger using the Spiral Swords so early. Oh, I have to dodge it at the last minute, I see. Although, last minute is kind of a dubious statement. He's not tough either, he's super easy. I don't even want to dodge them, I can just stand here. I appreciate there is a certain moment to doing it, but... a lot of enemies in a lot of games have this phase, but it's shit. At the very least there should be a cool thing I could do to like parry it. Or like say if I did the Spiral Swords at the same time as he did one of them, I could like knock him out of this phase or something like that. Awful boss fight. Just awful. But I guess it would be fine if it was like the first boss of the area. If it was the first boss of the DLC, it would be okay. Yeah, it'd be a redo, but it's a kind of get used to his attacks in a way that's familiar. But that's the only quote-unquote boss fight that you have in this DLC. There are mini-bosses, like the big thing I fought, and the time I fight it again. This is the problem with the narrative, is that there's no attempt by Vergil at all to reflect on what happened in any meaningful way. It's just, look, Vergil's becoming more evil for no reason. And then he has a nuclear bomb, which is he's unlocked his Devil Trigger. And now he's blue. Again. But with red eyes. Also not clear why he doesn't have a Devil Trigger. I did well. I did really well. But again, it's not hard, is it? Do I want just stronger regular attacks? Do I want stronger of these? I'm not using the demon mode at all because it sucks. Sword illusion, I mean spiral sword level 2 would probably be good. I'm starting to use it more. You know what, yeah, for a boss, let's max it. And it's still, yeah, 3500. And let's go into what is weirdly not an epilogue, it's just kind of the rest of the story after the boss fight. Because normally final boss means end of area, right? It means end of game. In this it doesn't. This means you're about 60% of the way through. It's not 60%, it's a bit more than that, but I think this is the last level. But it's not an epilogue either, it's like it's the actual end. I think this looks awful too. Like his Devil Trigger, I get they were going for ice effect rather than Dante's like fire, which is fine, but again, so generic by comparison. And I do like... So this is the Devil Trigger that I was referring to earlier, the Doppelganger moveset, which creates a second Vergil. And as you can see, he does things like I do them. Although he does also have a habit of knocking things away from me that I want to be fighting. It's just terrible. The lack of contrasting colours in these areas as well is also really irritating. The fact that some of the enemies have some blue on them, but most of the enemies, including their attacks, are just red. The same as everything. So 2 or 3 times during that fight, I got hit by an enemy using the ground fire attack, because I literally couldn't see it until I was deliberately looking for it, trying to find out what hit me. That's annoying. Like, this should be a solid, mechanically impressive bit of gameplay, which is underlining a story, right? Because this should be a thing about what's happening to Vergil, what's going on with Vergil. Those should be the questions that I'm asking, but instead the questions I'm asking are, can I stand here? Can I stand there? Where is the thing that's hitting me? What is the thing that's hitting me? And not at all about the story, other than why is any of this happening? Why is Vergil shown no attempt at reflecting on his actions? I know he's an enemy and he's supposed to be the bad guy, so he's not gonna, but even, like, good bad guys do it. They just reach the wrong conclusion at the end. I will say, I like replaying early sections. A lot of people find it annoying because it's just reusing assets or whatever. I actually quite like it. I think the whole showing you how far your character has come by making you replay the area you went to earlier, I actually quite like that in games. It gets quite easy at this point, but what I was going to say about Vergil's character thing, villains can reflect on their own actions, they just tend to get to the wrong conclusion at the end, and that's why they remain villains. Normally for Vergil, that seems a really obvious way to go, in that he's trying to find out where he went wrong and how everything went bad for him. In this, he just jumps straight to, everyone else betrayed me, I did nothing wrong. In reality, he should be going on about, people betrayed me because even though what I was doing was right, and I was defeating Mundus and helping the people is still right, I still believe that, I had to do awful things in order to do it. Kat and Dante clearly formed a rift with me over several things, particularly the killing of Lilith and her child. Maybe if I hadn't had to do those things, things would have been fine. Maybe the reason I had to do those things was because I was too weak to beat Mundus without them. Maybe in order to make sure I never have to do that again, I should get enough power that I could beat not just Mundus, but anyone, without having to do that. Maybe what I need is power. Power. I need more power. That should have been the progress that Vergil made here, because that's the progress Vergil always makes. But it's because the stories are... It's a very generic journey for Vergil to go on. Because there's always these levels, right? There's different degrees of complexity to enemies. There's ones that just have nothing but self-interest and insular thought, which are the most boring, bland, like, he's an enemy, of course he is, because he does the bad thing type enemy. Kylo Ren, for example, through most of the new Star Wars. It's just a caricature of the character that he's based on. From that, above that, you get to, like, slightly more complicated ones with people who ultimately are kind of convinced that what they're doing is right. As if you can get to double S just by pressing that button. Who always believe that what they're doing is right and good and righteous, which is the kind of moralistic, usually religious villain, who believe that what they're doing is ultimately best in God's eyes and anyone against them is evil, and that's the beginning and end of their rationale for everything. Which can be fine, depending on the circumstance. It's bland, but reasonable, and easily understood, easily recognised. But here's the doppelganger stuff. Yeah, you can have regular doppelganger who does it with you. You can get mode switch, where it's where you can switch doppelganger to use the... because he always does the same controls you do. If you press attack, 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 he does attack, attack, attack. If you press attack, attack, pause, attack, he'll do the pause combo for what he's doing. This means he will just do exactly what I do, move for move. This, I can switch him to using angel moves, demon moves, or normal moves. So you can see there it's demonstrating it. That as Vergil U is doing that combo, he's doing it. You switch him to demon mode, you do normal combo, he does demon combo. Which is interesting in itself. That's pretty good because, like when you're fighting the shield enemies, like I said earlier, it's really annoying that they're only vulnerable to one particular combo. If you want to just switch your buddy to that combo and then you hit him normally, you can actually do that. Or vice versa. Switch him to the angel weapons, you use the demon thing, and you do all the attacks to him that you need to do. And then delay. This one creates like a little delay between what you do and what he does. So again, if the shield enemies, if you've got the shield up, create a delay so that he doesn't bounce off the shield when he does it. You do the demon attacks, break the shield open, and then have him come in with the angel attack. And mixing the two of them, which you can do, makes quite a lot of variation in the moves you can do and the combinations you can do. But what limits it is that you get about 8 seconds of it per quarter of a level. So maybe you get to use this 4 times, 30 seconds max per mission. You'll get maybe 1 or 2 combo attacks per devil trigger, so it's not worth it at all. Had this just been a normal attack, like imagine the devil trigger, you switch devil triggers, you can always use them, but you're switching between whether you're using the all the summon sword abilities or this. Like imagine I lose everything but the most basic summon sword of shooting one slowly and then the pulling and pulling, and then having doppelganger, or I switch to no doppelganger, but I can use spiral swords and sword, whatever it's called, ballista, whatever, blistering swords and storm swords, and switching between the two all the time and having access to all of them, but only one set, would make this actually incredibly fun. Give me a big area with lots of enemies and give me a serious amount of attack power, and just let me play. Instead it gives me small areas with small irritating enemies and gives me the minimum attack power. And just kind of bland enemies. I don't know why I was trying to fight the one off camera whilst looking at the one who could attack me. That seemed like a really stupid way to do it, in hindsight. But what I was saying about the villain motivations, there's the kind of the most basic boring, which is this Vergil, of no matter what happens, everyone else just against me, I did nothing wrong. There's the I never did anything wrong because what I'm ultimately doing is right. I may have made mistakes, but I'm never ultimately wrong, which is religious, or I guess Shiru Emir type character, who's what I'm ultimately doing is always right because I'm in the right. Again, fine, can be okay. No, not great though. Can be interesting when they acknowledge that that's what they are and what they're doing. That's interesting that I actually do have to look at it. And when I say interesting, I mean irritating beyond belief. I'm getting a bit more of the hang of Judgment Cut as well. Summon swords are good. The summon sword devil trigger is actually good. I said at times it's way too limiting, and it is, but it's not so limiting that it's useless. It's actually kind of fun to use most of the time. I just wish it was so much less limiting that it was overpowered. Because against this type enemy, yeah, it is overpowered, but make stronger enemies and more of them. And then let me be overpowered, and then be overpowered, and me so much more overpowered that I beat them. That's how I should feel as this Vergil. He says, and then looks at his fucking face. They genuinely take as much as some of the small enemies. Oh, is this a quick time event? Well, if there was something there, it's gone now. Wait, what? Oh, that platform falls as well, okay. Well, fuck me. At least I didn't miss the health thing. And after you have the kind of religious enemy who just never thinks he's wrong no matter what, or acknowledges that he's made mistakes but was never wrong, you get a kind of really from the very beginning. You get the kind of boss or enemy, who acknowledges that he's doing things that are wrong, but feels he has no choice in the matter, or that his alternative is less of a choice, which is always kind of interesting, that you can always kind of sympathise with that in some way, at least. I think this is the final boss. This is the very end of the game. It is indeed. Oh, here we go. Awful boss. Awful enemy. Yeah, and after the kind of one who accepts that he's doing something bad, but not as bad as it could be, there's the boss who acknowledges that what he is fundamentally trying to do is wrong, but kind of doesn't care. He just wants to do it for his own reasons, which is what I feel Vergil should be, and kind of is in the other games. Like with the Qythoth in 5 and opening the gate in 3, Vergil's a kind of... I don't really care if what I'm doing is moral. I'm just going to kind of do it because I need to do it for reasons that I have. Then there's the kind who is actively evil for the sake of being evil because they enjoy being evil, which is another kind of tired stereotype a lot of the time, but I have a lot of appreciation for. A Disney villain, if you like, a Maleficent, mistress of all evil type figure. That's clearly not Vergil, but it would be more interesting than thinks he's the hero, Vergil, and never bothers to even ask if he's not the hero. So yeah, come the end, Vergil is back in the real world because he cheated death somehow, and he's brought an army of demons to help him with a Nazi armband and trench coat. And that's the end of the DLC. We did it in one sitting. Who knew? I genuinely thought it would take me longer than that, to be honest. We haven't been going long at all, have we? We've gone like maybe 2.5 hours, if that. Yeah, given it took me 13 hours to beat the main game, 2.5 is very short for this. I don't think there's anything after the credits, but watch them anyway. And yeah, the last type of villain that I think is the most interesting is kind of, I don't even care enough to think about what I'm doing is right or wrong. Which is kind of the worst combination with a hero who thinks he's doing what's right and is fighting for what's righteous and good, because there's no communication to be had between them. Because the answer always is, what you're doing is wrong, you're hurting people, and he's like, so? And then I was like, but that's bad, and he's like, well, yeah, probably, but I don't care. But I think he's the most interesting villain, the one who's just doing his own thing and morality means nothing. That too often, particularly in American stuff, the hero versus the villain becomes the good versus the bad. I know that seems probably the natural order to most people, but I think there's a lot to be said for stories in which not only do you get to decide who's right and who's wrong, but you can perfectly happy and go at the end of, this story isn't about right or wrong in any meaningful way. This is just two people with conflicting interests, conflicting designs, conflicting aims and ambitions, and who cannot coexist because of it. That to me always seemed to be not what Dante and Vergil were in the original, but it should have been what they were in this, because they set that up so well. I say set it up well, they don't set it up at all, they just spring it in the last scene for no reason. But that they could have set it up better. I also wished, well, because it should have been that, right? It should have been Vergil being the humans need to be protected. You saw from what happened with Mundus what happens when they're not. Even if they're capable of running themselves and intelligent adults, they aren't as strong as demons and never will be. So as long as they don't have somebody stronger than a demon protecting them, they will always inevitably fall. Because that seems the obvious way for Vergil to go. Like Dante's above Vergil in Vergil's own DLC. Rogerio Silva, I don't know how well you did. 2D cinematics. One person did the artwork, and then an outside company did the CGI. That tells you exactly how much time and money was available for this. But yeah, it should have been... And then Vergil believing humans can never be safe unless they have a Nephilim protecting them. And Dante saying it doesn't matter if they're safe, freedom is more important than safety. And that being the kind of battle. Rather than, I want to be king because people are useless, and rather than, no, people are great, I'm going to be Lord Protector, as if, like, Oliver Cromwell kind of walking in, or more, Julius Caesar walking in with the purple robe and the crown going, I'm the saviour of democracy type figure. Because that's kind of what Dante is in the end. It's, I'm not going to rule, I'm going to let people ruin their own shit if they want, but I'm still going to act as kind of high protector to defend the weak and helpless humans. There's no way this is ever getting a sequel. It looked that at the time, it looks even more so now, but I kind of hope it does, and I kind of hope they get more money and a lot more time and a lot more thought into what it would be, because there's a lot of good ideas in this game, just never really followed through on. And yeah, the whole DLC on this was kind of a waste of time. Not in a bad way. If it's better than having no playable Vergil at all, and Dante being the only main character, but I'd have much preferred almost anything else to what we actually got with the DLC for it. I haven't actually finished the DLC before. How little time did I put into the DLC the first time I played this? It took me 2.5 hours now to beat the whole thing. Like, what? Was I that bored of the game already by the time it came out the first time? But yeah, the there should have been more evaluation, not on Vergil's backstory, which is what they kind of tried to touch on in this, but didn't at all. They just rehashed what we already knew. And just the story of what Vergil was doing while Dante was playing the main game. Because if he's doing nothing and it comes up at the end as if Vergil then thinks he's tough, it would have been awful. If Vergil had been using Dante, not just because the whole thing of like Dante is the strongest, only he can beat the monsters that we need to destroy, which is kind of crap, and it makes the ending make no sense. If it had been Dante is going to fight them because he's loud and obnoxious, and Mundus already knows, so if he sees Dante, he thinks he's seen everything, and so that Mundus would only ever be watching Dante because Dante is the one doing stuff, and then Vergil uses that as cover to then go and do his own Nephilim fighting monster shit behind the scenes, knowing it will be overlooked because of what Dante's doing, and then that being the DLC of you being Vergil, running along side areas to areas you visited in the main game, doing your own shit and exploring your own side stuff. Creating some semblance of Vergil having planned things out in advance. All those computers and base and things that he built were there for some kind of reason. Because playing the main game, it does look like the only people involved in any kind of rebellion were Cat, Vergil and Dante, and the only thing they actually needed for that rebellion was Dante. Because all they needed to know was where the monster is, which doesn't seem that hard to find. Maybe Vergil doing investigative work for the levels to come would have been interesting. Trying to find out where the succubus is while Dante's exploring, the ruins and stuff. Then trying to find a way to enter Bob Barbas's tower while Dante is running around in the Slurm factory, or when Dante's down in the purgatory bit talking to whatever he's called, Phineas. What's Vergil doing at that point? Is he clearing a path for Dante to get into the tower? I don't know. It could be any. Just make something. Make Vergil better to play. Give him more stuff and give him more relevant stuff. It would have been good. But hey. I took too long. And I missed 2 Lost Souls. But my style points were good, so I got a B. Let's continue, shall we? I've unlocked Son of Sparta, a higher difficulty with remixed stuff. And Must Style, which I suppose now that I've got all the moves isn't that bad. If I tried to do that on Must Style from the beginning, that would be shitty as fuck. So after these you get Vergil Must Die, Strongest Enemies, and we're more of them. You get that beaten from the Sparta. Gods Must Die. Enemies spawn with devil triggers active all the time. You can't use enemies. Can't use items. Not that I did anyway, but on that would be important. Enemies die in one hit, Vergil dies in one hit. And then Hell or Hell, which is you die in one hit, but they take normal damage. And then Hardcore mode makes the style system. I know we went through this with Dante, but I'm going through them again. Style system more like the original games. Enemies do more damage. The parry and evades are different. Alternate devil trigger behaviour, I assume, for enemies, and then other stuff. There's a training and a bloody palace too. So we have standard Vergil, which is now devil triggered Vergil. Hitler Vergil, basically. Weak Vergil, which is most Vergil, and then classic Goober Vergil. Make it faster, make it more style, disable the timer. Or I can enable hardcore. But we're not going to do that. Yeah, 2.5 hours. 2 hours 35. And apparently over half an hour of that was on menus. So actually 2 hours worth of gameplay. I suppose it's not terrible. I never got less than a B on any of the missions I did. I got I got 6 Bs and 1 triple S. It's just fine, I guess. Given the amount of time I spent looking for things and falling off cliffs, I think that's pretty good. Only mission I finished more than once was mission 2. Mission 5 was short. That's the boss fight, isn't it, with Shadow Vergil? So that's why that's so short. 3 minutes seemed very short, even so. Nice completion. I got most of things in most of them. There is no, unfortunately, artwork or anything in Vergil's, so I guess we'll stick with this. But yeah, that's Vergil's Downfall. We have now completed DmC Devil May Cry in its totality. I could go back and do it on other difficulties and try out Bloody Palace on both, which was an additional thing they added in, by the way, after the game came out. It wasn't in the base game. I could look at we've seen the concept art and stuff. I could do more missions over on difficulties higher than that, but I just have to do either Nephilim, that's kind of... I think Devil Hunter's the one it's based for, but that makes it kind of worse, so Nephilim's fine. Son of Sparda, meh. Just different enemies and they're a bit harder. And most of these aren't that interesting anyway. You'd be much better off just playing on Nephilim, and then adding the must style or whatever mode to it. Or put it on hardcore mode. Because it at least mixes the gameplay up instead of it just being more enemies but harder. But that's the game. That's the reboot of DmC, called DmC. In spite of all my complaining, I really like it. I think it's the easiest to get into of all the Devil May Cries, except maybe 1. Just because 1 looks really old now by comparison. Which it is, I guess it's 10 years old anyway, but... it's the worst one, except 2. I would put this above 2. I genuinely would. Just because the gameplay in 2 is so awful. At least, like, other than Vergil's Downfall, where there were times when I was just kind of, ing at it. Most of Devil May Cry, the base DmC Devil May Cry, is pretty good to play. It feels fun, it feels intuitive, it feels flowing. You feel powerful. And there is a fair bit of variety in the attacks you can do. Mechanically, it's a lot weaker than the original series. Story-wise and character-wise, it's a lot weaker. Tone-wise, it's not nearly as interesting or as fun. The music is dreadful by comparison. Sorry, I know it's a different genre, but it is. And Combi Christ, they're a band, people know them. But after we heard Devil Trigger in DmC 5, there's not even a conversation to be had anymore. It's more Western, which is code for worse. But it's fine. If you haven't played Devil May Cry's before, this is the one you should start with. Might rephrase that. If you don't want to go back to 1 and play them in order, play this first. Because this is a good introduction to the concept of what a Devil May Cry is, and then you get into Devil May Cry when you finish this. But it's good. I had fun. I've enjoyed it. I've total streamed it now for about 15 hours worth, which is the first game I've ever finished on stream. So thanks for everybody for watching. I'm going to try and stream a lot more regularly in future. Obviously I've had tonsillitis last week, so I haven't had that much time to do it. and I'm not sure what the next game's going to be. I don't know what console it's going to be on. I quite like streaming on PS4 because it's so quick and easy to do. I just press the share button and it's on. But I have a lot more games on PC and you can do a lot more with the streaming, so I'm probably going to play around with that. We'll keep you posted. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitch and YouTube. All Games of Babylon or some variation. And yeah, catch you guys next time.